Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
I'm your host, Mirko Peters. We explore how data science and AI drive real business impact straight from the leaders making it happen. Welcome to datascience.show, thought leaders in data science for C-level and experts. Today, M&A for AI, the executive playbook to capture data and AI value in acquisitions. This episode is practical and prescriptive. What to ask during diligence, how to choose an integration pattern that maps to your strategy, and how to lock in measurable wins in the first 90 days after close. Why now? Because deals don't create value by themselves. They expose data assets and models to the risk of being stranded, licensed away, or buried under integration drift. That's where leadership matters.
To set expectations, I'm not walking you through model internals or a vendor demo. This is an executive playbook. You'll get a checklist you can use in diligence, 3 repeatable integration patterns with pros and cons, negotiation levers that matter in purchase agreements, and an activation plan that translates promises on the term sheet into cashable outcomes. Let's get started.
First, imagine the typical acquiring executive I'm thinking of, a chief data officer or head of analytics who is evaluating targets ranging from niche AI-enabled startups to bolt-on product companies with embedded ML. These leaders manage portfolios that include training data, feature stores, deployed models, model monitoring pipelines, and teams that know the domain. Their responsibility is to decide whether the target's AI stack is strategic, complementary, or a hidden liability.
Why their perspective matters, they sit at the intersection of product, engineering, and corporate strategy. They see the technical debt others miss, and they translate model-level metrics into business KPIs. When a deal closes, they own the work to turn those assets into predictable outcomes for customers and the P&L. So this playbook is written for them and for the executives who must sign the checks and remove blockers.
Now we move into the core, assessment to decision. Start with a concise diligence checklist. This is not an academic inventory. It's a set of red flag gates you must clear pre-close. Ask and get evidence for 5 categories: data, models, pipelines, people, and legal IP.
Under data, what is the scope and freshness of the training data? What is the lineage and the governance for each dataset? Can you quantify coverage gaps and biases quickly? Do you have access to sample data under NDA to run your own quick profiling? If samples are refused or provenance is unclear, treat that as a material risk.
Models and performance. Ask for benchmarked performance, evaluation datasets, and model cards. But don't stop at AUC or accuracy. Request explainability artifacts, failure modes, and a list of known edge cases. Crucially, are there reproducible training pipelines? If a model cannot be retrained deterministically with the supplied code and data, maintenance becomes expensive technical debt.
Pipelines and deployment. Map the path from raw data to inference. Are there automated ETL jobs, CI/CD for models, and monitoring for data drift and label drift? If the target only has manual or siloed pipelines, factor in remediation cost. You must know whether models are production in name only or truly operationalized.
People and capability. Who built the models and who owns them now? Distinguish between IP embedded in code and IP held in people's heads. Key hires or long change control periods are a real cost. Negotiate retention or transition services where necessary, and map skill gaps that will matter after integration.
Legal and IP, validate data licenses, third-party model dependencies, and privacy constraints. Ask whether customer contracts restrict data movement or resale. Confirm export controls, consent language for training data, and any licensor clauses that could block internal reuse. These constraints often determine whether a model is transferable or only licensable.
With diligence, results in hand,
Choose an integration pattern that matches strategic goals. There are 3 pragmatic patterns I see repeatedly: lift and shift, rationalize and centralize, and preserve autonomy. Each has clear trade-offs.
Lift and shift. Move the target stack into your environment with minimal change. Use this when speed matters and the model provides immediate, measurable value. Pros: fast time to value, minimal disruption to the target team. Cons: replicates technical debt and can balloon operational costs long-term.
Rationalize and centralize. Consolidate models, data, and infrastructure into a single platform. This pattern is best when you want scale and standardization across business units. Pros: unified governance, lower long-term cost, easier monitoring. Cons: longer timeline, requires upfront migration effort, needs strong change management.
Preserve autonomy. Retain the target stack and team as a semi-independent unit, integrating only at agreed APIs or data contracts. Use it when domain expertise is tightly coupled to the model, or when regulatory constraints limit data movement. Pros: preserve speed of the acquired team, lower integration risk. Cons: harder to standardize metrics and realize cross-company synergies. How to choose. Build a decision matrix with 2 axes: strategic criticality and operational maturity. If strategic criticality is high and maturity is high, centralize. If criticality is high but maturity is low, plan first to stabilize, then centralize. If criticality is low, consider preserve autonomy or even licensing instead of full acquisition. Map each asset into that matrix during diligence and use it to set the integration play.
Negotiation levers you can use in purchase agreements. Require escrow of model code and training data under defined conditions. Include representations about data provenance and consent. Tie part of the purchase price to post-close performance milestones of core models, and negotiate transition services to retain knowledge. These contractual levers convert technical risk into commercial protections.
Now, operationalizing value, the 90-day activation plan. Break post-close into 3 30-day sprints with focused outcomes. Sprint 1, secure access and stabilization. Get read-only access to production systems, run quick health checks on data pipelines and model inference, and resolve immediate legal or privacy blockers. Your Sprint 1 deliverable is a validated go-no-go list for short-term activation. Sprint 2, prove value. Execute one targeted experiment or pilot that maps the acquired model to a clear revenue or cost KPI. Examples: improve conversion rate by X% in a prioritized product funnel, reduce fraud losses by Y% for a given segment, or increase automation throughput to save Z FTE. Keep the experiment tight with a pre-registered success criterion.
Sprint 3, Scale and Governance. If the pilot meets targets, put a plan in motion to scale the model. Productionize the retraining pipeline, integrate monitoring into your central observability, set error budgets and alerting, and finalize role-based access. Also, implement a governance checkpoint with legal and compliance to close any lingering contract or privacy issues.
What executive metrics should you track? Focus on a small set: time to first inference in your environment, productionized model count, deployed model uptime, data freshness lag, business KPI delta attributable to the acquired model, and realized ROI versus the agreed milestone payments. Put these on an executive dashboard reviewed weekly for the first 90 days, then monthly.
Leadership and impact. Integration is an organizational change problem as much as a technical one. Define a clear RACI. CEO or COO sponsors, CDO owns technical integration, CFO owns financial milestones, General Counsel manages IP terms, and product or BU leads manage customer-facing impacts. Assign an integration lead with headcount authority and a budget to act decisively. Align incentives across stakeholders by tying a portion of the earnout or retention to measurable outcomes from the model, not to vague milestones. Use conservative milestone design so expectations are realistic and avoid eroding trust when timelines stretch. Regular, short-cycle reviews let leadership course-correct without finger-pointing.
A few governance checkpoints to avoid integration drift.
Require a documented data contract for each integrated dataset. Enforce model versioning and reproducibility checks before deployment. Mandate drift monitoring with defined remediation playbooks, and use quarterly risk reviews to assess privacy and compliance exposure. These checks keep the acquisition from decaying into technical debt.
Looking ahead, watch for 3 common risks after integration. First, supplier or licensor clauses that surface after close and limit reuse. Second, cultural friction. Product teams default to their old ways and slow adoption. Third, hidden data quality problems that only show up at scale. When these appear, decide quickly whether to decouple the asset, fix it, or sunset it. Don't let indecision compound the cost.
When to decouple versus double down. Decouple when the cost to remediate exceeds the incremental value, or when legal constraints lock you into a limited license. Double down when the asset delivers differentiated competitive advantage and remediation cost is reasonable relative to the long-term margin uplift. Use your decision matrix and the 90-day evidence to make that call.
Preparing for successive acquisitions, build repeatable playbooks. Standardize your diligence artifacts, maintain a small core team that executes integrations, and keep a library of common contractual clauses and TSAs. Over time, you'll reduce integration time and increase capture rate, turning M&A into a predictable engine of capability rather than a series of expensive one-offs.
Key takeaways. 2 practical items to act on today. First, implement the 90-day activation plan template we covered. Secure access, run a focused pilot, and scale only if the pilot proves value. Second, use this top 5 diligence checklist during any deal. Data provenance and freshness, reproducibility of training pipelines, productionization and monitoring status, people and retention dependencies, and contractual restrictions on data and model reuse. Keep these simple and non-negotiable.
Final reflection. M&A is where strategy meets execution. If you treat data and AI as an afterthought, you'll pay for it in lost value and integration cost. If you apply focused diligence, the right integration pattern, and a short activation cadence, you turn deals into predictable, auditable outcomes. And that's the difference between models and value.
If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with your network. And let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm Mirko Peters. We'll be back with more conversations on how data science and AI create real business impact. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.